All right, guys, welcome back for another segment of Real Estate 101. I'm Jason Hyman. As you guys know, we've been doing Real Estate 101 on and off for some time. We rebooted this year really to give a fresh perspective of meeting the players and learning the positions of the industry. And so I've been calling on a lot of my colleagues, a lot of partners, and people that I meet in the market that I think you guys need to know and understand who they are and what they do. Real estate is one of those things where there's many levels to it. A lot of times we think about realtors, we think about developers, even inspectors, and those are people that you see day to day because they are doing things like with our homes. But there's so many other facets to real estate outside of that. So, whether it be residential or commercial. So, today I have a special guest to me because she's been very supportive of a lot of efforts, my office, our causes and things like that in the neighborhood, personally and professionally, which I think we need more of in our neighborhoods and working together. So I've invited Nikki Knight. I'll let her introduce herself in a second, what she does and what's going on here. But I want to talk for a few seconds about some things that are going on in Houston. One in particular are Houston Avenue's bike lanes. You guys, if you aren't familiar, we have a new mayor. Mayor Whitmire has replaced Sylvester Turner. And as always, in shifts of regimes and leadership, things change. Things change drastically. Leadership change. So we have a lot of new leadership in our city. So that's going to impact us. But also sometimes physical infrastructure and policies change. Well, one of the things that Mayor Whitmire changed were removing bike lanes that had been placed on Houston Avenue. And so I want to kind of open things up before Nikki introduces herself, just kind of give a little bit of insight and perspective, like her thoughts on that, bike lanes, their impact, and like what things like that may mean for Houston. Like, is that an indication of where we're going? Is that an indication of Houston, us taking bike lanes up? Is that how we live? So on and so forth. Kind of give us a little bit of insight so we can jump in and understand who you are and how you think.
Oh, Jason, that's a hot seat right there. So, like you said, leadership changes. With any leadership changes, there's a change in priority, right? And everyone has their own ideas of what things are priority for major cities. Um, the bike lanes are controversial. They've been controversial for a long time, especially for those who are car centric, who I don't ride a bike. I don't ever intend to ride a bike. And why are we making room for people who only ride bikes or who ride them as a recreational vehicle? Well, um, I think that we are a progressive city, and we should look into multimodal modes of transportation. Removing bike lanes takes us back a little bit, right? Because the infrastructure that goes into it, the planning, mitigating some safety hazards, we go back just a little bit,
Takes
right?
a bit too. But what about folks that say like, hey, it was just a small section, or hey, what about, you know, other people, bikers, for instance, and folks that are traveling are important. But some people, like you're saying, that it's a choice, right? If they choose not to, what about their opinion? Do you feel like that is just a contest of wills, or you're like, no, we have to make a commitment to be a better city, period?
I think overall we have to make a commitment to be a better city, right? Not just through mobility, but in all aspects, right? We always talk about how innovative Houston is and how diverse Houston is. Diversity is not just creed and color, right? Diversity is being understanding of different modes of transportation, adaptive play spaces, adaptive travel lanes, being able to accommodate those whose choice is to cycle to work, right? You may have moved in a neighborhood in proximity to your work where you can bike to work, and that's your preferred mode of transportation. And if you are not protected as a cyclist, that could cause pause for you, right? So I think, I'm not going to go into the whole psychological piece,
Right.
right? But I always say that we get caught in the work that I do, and then just as citizens, in between the intersection of preference, policy, and people, right?
That's
Because if I am not a cyclist, my first thought is not to advocate for or put down a bike lane, right? If I am a driver, my first inclination is to make sure that the streets don't tear up my car, that there are appropriate
right.
signalizations, So my viewpoint is different. I think that it's when we talk about resources and being good stewards of the public realm, we also have to think about what that stuff costs and the investments made to infrastructure around the city. So again, you know, at every, whenever the top decision maker changes, so do
Yeah, you can expect
priorities. And you can
it.
expect some changes, whether you agree with them or not. I think that taking it into consideration, the type of city we want to be is always first in my
It's
mind.
it's gonna be uncomfortable at first. I agree.
Oh,
There definitely has to be a commitment to the direction you want to go. Um, and it's interesting. So I appreciate that, Nikki. And just for everybody that does listen in and check this out, I want you to understand why it's important. I'm a real estate broker and urban planner. If you're watching this, you're probably watching on my channel or my one of my platforms or something like that. Why is this important for us in our industry? As an urban planner, we're thinking about, of course, how everyone lives. We're trying to create value in neighborhoods, right? And so, like Nikki said, definitely this is something that kind of takes things back. There's a lot of effort and energy, and outside of the money, right? There's a time and resources that we're putting that could have been put somewhere else, that sometimes can be removed with a snap decision, right? But as a broker and someone who is trying to help others, manage and really take control of their value and equity in their property, bike lanes or the intention of bike lanes and things like that really affects our property values, right? Um, and for me, I guess the cross section of them is that I get to help people move here or from all walks of life and kind of be comfortable and find places where they can thrive. So I think it does definitely allow the city of Houston to be a more diverse place, which I think is healthy. It's really healthy. We got some stuff to catch up on, but I definitely think I agree with you, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you today, right? So you guys, Nikki's giving some perspective, but I want you to understand why I want her perspective. She giving me perspective. I'm learning, right? And I think you guys gotta, take that into account as well. Nikki is the program manager for the Southeast Management District. Some of you guys may not be familiar with that organization. I'll let her tell you a little bit more about it. But Nikki deals with really pretty much every day. She deals with just what she kind of analyzed for us, this cross section of policy, public need and want, and resources, right? As this program manager. So, Nikki, if you can, tell us a little bit about yourself.
well, Jason, I'm a native Houstonian, Houston girl. Um, love the city. Have gone other places, but always gravitated back to the house. Right. Um, you know, went to Lamar High School, University of Houston. So I'm a local girl. This work, and this role kind of fell in my lap, right? I was driving through the neighborhood and I was like, who is doing this stuff? Right. And I get a
When you
call,
say what stuff, what do you mean?
like the so I was driving out OST, and I saw the roses in the medians, I saw, the street signs, I saw all the things, and I was like, who does this stuff, right? And as my life would have it, I get a call on a Sunday saying, hey, Nikki, have you ever done capital improvements? And I was like, no, not really. I've done some other things. And so my friend says, hey, I think you should apply for this position. I'm like, okay, I'm open to a challenge and a risk. So I go, send my resume in. I get a call the next day. And by the middle of that week, I'm the person managing all this stuff I just asked about on Friday. Right. And I was
Okay.
like, wow, what a life I live, right? So I thought that, I mean, that's always kind of the wonky way that my life happens, but I'm grateful
No,
because I don't ever claim to live a normal existence, right? But
no.
fell into this role. You look like you have a question.
Yeah, no, I wanted to ask you, it happened like that, but like, what was your background? Like, who was Nikki before then? Like, were you already in that kind of space or another world?
No, so my world has always been interdisciplinary. I had just left my accounting firm. I was partners with a local accounting firm, and I did the business development pieces and strategy, and did that for 15 years. So my role was really administration, operations, and making sure that we connected dots in different spaces because accounting is for every industry, right? So there was not an industry we couldn't account for. But my other life, I always have had, and I still have a love for real estate. So I've done renovations and commercial build outs, all that kind of stuff. So that's my life and my joy. And of
But
course,
but you weren't necessarily like a professionally or classically trained to be in
absolutely
this, but you literally are impacting everything all the rest of us do,
not,
right?
not classically trained in any of this. I'm a quick study
Okay,
though. But
okay.
I really inherently believe that all things work together, that none of the skill sets that I've gathered over the years have gone to waste. Um,
You
Nikki,
was able to transfer all those skills and
all
apply it.
transferable. And then the crazy thing is, and I tell this to my kids, don't think that the stuff that you learn as a kid you won't use as an adult. Years ago, when I was in middle school and high school, I was in a program all through my summers, in middle and high school to be an engineer and to be a geologist and to be all the things that I manage now. I never wanted to be those things, right? I never wanted to be an engineer. I never wanted to
You
do
just came
anything that,
around.
and it comes full circle. And so I laugh because I said nothing is wasted. So when people use certain terms, I'm aware because I have been trained in those areas, but not I didn't go to college for that. My degree is in interdisciplinary studies and communications.
Oh,
That's what I'm trained in. So humanities, I'm for the people, right?
okay.
Um,
But you found impactful ways to apply it, right?
absolutely.
One of those
Absolutely.
things is like for me in my lane, I reach out to you around topics around like corridor revitalization, community development. It's not always so transactional, from typically how we do as a broker. I'm always reaching out, wanting to build a relationship and learn and understand kind of what's happening in my district. But you do so much as a program manager for the Southeast Management District. Can you give us a little bit of context, like what is uh, the Southeast Management District? What is a management district, and what exactly, what programs? What do you? Yeah,
Sure. So the Greater Southeast Management District is a political subdivision of the state of Texas, right? We are a quasi-governmental agency that facilitates economic development on the broad scale, right? With
it's a subdivision.
it's a subset of the state, yes. So it's a
Okay,
subset of the state. So that's where we get our incorporation from. That's we are created through legislation,
like
and
an
so
entity.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
we're created through legislation. And so what happens is, all of what goes into creating a district. We're grateful for Representative Garnett Coleman, who was our advocate for this happening, because without a management district, when you have TERSs, when you have tax increment reinvestment zones that put in infrastructure on behalf of the city of Houston, you have to have an entity that manages and maintains it into perpetuity, right? Because
Mhm.
then that's where you start getting blight if you don't have anyone to maintain things. So the management district is designed to spur economic development through programmatic instances, and they're called programs because that's just That's the system that we use, the terminology of the system that we use to make sure they work together. So we have business and economic development, enhanced public safety. We have environmental, urban design, and visual improvements. We have marketing, public relations, and perception enhancement. And then the last one that we have is transportation and local mobility. So we have the small beginnings of an ecosystem. It's almost like we're managing a small city, right?
Right.
And so we don't have our own police department, those types of things. We use resources from the broader agencies that are that we are a part of, right? So our enhanced public safety officers are HPD officers as well as the constables,
Right.
and they provide patrolling services. We work with all agencies, Harris County Precinct 1, Harris County Flood Control, TxDOT, Metro, the city, to do anything with the public realm and infrastructure. So we're kind of a liaison, and we are intermediary for a lot of projects that happen on the infrastructure level. For business economic development, we have relationships with banking institutions, the Small Business Administration. We leverage relationships with our businesses because we need to know what they need, so we can bring them things that are viable, right? Because you can go out and research and find things on your own, but if there's a resource available to you that can connect you to the person or to the people you need, why wouldn't you go that route? So in some ways, like I said, it's running a small city, and then there's a layer that kind of functions like a chamber almost. So it's really multifaceted.
So let me ask you, like, right? Yeah, it's definitely you guys are a lot there. And I reach out, but I think I'm probably a little bit more in tune than a lot of other people. So for me, like being plugged in with the management district, whether it's this one or any other, like kind of helps me understand like what's coming in the neighborhood. Like you're saying, being able to connect with others that are kind of thinking in that same way, so we can coordinate efforts. So that we do kind of have this, like you say, this ecosystem. And I understand that you guys are there, but um, how I know y'all have like I think I saw you guys have like a directory we can put in, and y'all have other programs, but like how can we more engage with the district, like
So
as a private or community?
for sure. So, like I told you before, I got into this work. I knew nothing about a management district. I didn't even know they existed. I didn't know what. I didn't even know it was. I didn't know anything. I'm telling you, I came in here and I learned what these things did because I've lived, in Houston my whole life, and hearing of a management district just 7 years ago is something that again I had no idea. So
Hmm.
to understand how to connect with a management district. First, I'll say this: if you pay taxes, look at your tax bill. Every entity listed on that tax bill, there is a way for you to connect and to ask questions and to be engaged. And if you don't know, you call the county and say, "Hey, what does this mean? And who's charging me?" Right? Get get intentional about reading and understanding where your dollars are going. That's first. Second, when you and ask questions just across the board, just like you do, Jason. You ask questions all the time, and I think sometimes people are afraid not to know. If I don't know, I'm going to ask because I want to make sure that I'm accurate in what I'm saying, doing, or understanding. So, to get connected, just ask questions. We have our website, houstonse.org. Come to the board meetings. They're open to the public. Come to our meetings. They're open. They are public meetings in order for us to understand what the public needs by way of service and resources. Send me an
Yeah.
email. We
And
can schedule meetings. It's all kinds of stuff we can do to connect and engage.
And you guys, not all the time, but every now and then, I know you guys may issue like RFPs or different things when y'all looking for work that needs to be done in the
Yes.
area too, is right.
We
So
do, and we issue them. We have to do a wide distribution, so we mostly post in the Houston Business Journal. I know everybody doesn't go to the Business Journal, but that's considered a wide distribution for the state of Texas, and so that's where we post. We also post in some local newspapers, around the distribution area of our district, and then it goes on our website. So, and we may send out some emails and put it on social media because we want to make sure that we broadcast it to the broader community.
Yeah, I get the email, so I think that's helpful. And then you guys' calendar is helpful too, to be able to go on the calendar and just kind of add it to my calendar if I want to, things that are going on. So I definitely encourage anybody that's listening, watching, or whatever the case is, to especially if you're in this area, whether you're in this area or not. If you're in this area, connect with me, connect with Nikki, connect with somebody, but learn, understand the Southeast Management District more. If you're not in this area, just learn about management districts. If no one in your area is kind of talking about these things, we're talking about them. Take the questions back to where you are. Okay. So share this with other folks you think may need that information. Now, I want to change things up a little bit because I feel like I feel like some work to do, in a sense, but it's good work.
Always
It's
an
good work.
assignment.
It's good
Always
work.
an assignment.
Yeah, it's a sign. It's good. It's good. We need to, because at least in the inner city in Houston, um, you know, there is really no governing agencies. It really takes coordination across public, private, everybody. So you just literally have to plug in, or you're gonna wake up and it's gonna be some stuff that you may or may not like. That's just kind of what it is, right?
Yeah, even had
So
any idea about.
in this world, in this work, though, one thing I'll say to kind of break it up, you talked about engaging, you talk about all the problems, hurdles sometimes that happen, like, but it can be pretty rewarding, funny sometimes too, right?
Oh,
I always
always.
I always like to reflect on funny stories. So I ask everybody, if you can share us something light about what you do that actually makes you laugh and keep doing it.
You know, um, people are intriguing. I like to people watch, right? And that's just
We
my whole
all
thing.
do. We
I
all
love
do.
a good people watch. But what I love is I guess the funniest things that I see really stem around people's passions, right? And when people are passionate about some things, um, they want you to be just as passionate. And
Right.
I was having a conversation with someone, and I listen to everybody. I have to listen because I need to understand what the root of it is. Because sometimes people will talk about things and that's not really the issue. So I got to listen to them. So I had one lady talk to me about, we don't have any grocery stores. We don't have, we don't get what other neighborhoods get, and we don't do this and we don't do that. And I was like, I'm listening, and I'm like, okay. I said, well, what do you love about the neighborhood? She said, well, I love that my taxes are low. I said, okay. I said, so let's talk about this system, right? I said, if you had a business and everybody's taxes and income were low, would you bring your business to that neighborhood? No, I wouldn't. I said, okay. I said, I said, if you had, if you had high crime in an area, or you didn't feel safe in your area, would you bring your business to that area? She was like, no, I wouldn't. And then she stops and she looks at me and she says, you a slick one. And I was like, I'm just trying to get you to understand what hurdles we have to overcome to get what you want. And she was like, I said, if you're a resident and you think like this, people who are coming to spend millions of dollars in an area, they're already thinking like this. I said, so we have to change the mindset of us as residents, because I live in the district. We have to change the mindset of us as residents, but also we have to look at how the behavior of our communities attract or repel those things that we want. And
Right.
so when she said, she was like, you a slick one. So every time I see her, she goes, come here, girl. I just want to give you a hug. She said, you really changed my life. And I was like, I just wanted to make sure you had good information, because the things you were raving about are the very things that's stifling what you actually want. And so she makes my day every time I see her. But I just really,
No.
I really want people to understand that you can't fight against yourself because you don't know what is required to get the things that you want. So for me, that's funny because I hear it all the time. I want my taxes low.
Yes.
I don't want this, I don't want that. But ooh, can we have this Starbucks? Or ooh, can we have this? It's like when you talk about the metrics that a business or a retailer uses to come, um, the data that they use is directly attributed to
Absolutely.
what you tell them. So if
So
you don't want the man to know how much money you make, and you put it at lower income bracket, the census and the data is going to say that these people are poor. They can't afford coffee,
correct.
recreational coffee, right? So it tells a story. So you have to tell the truth, one, but you also have to give yourself, you have to be proud of the space you live in and be able to advocate for yourself through information. And so for me, that is one of the fun. It's funny, but it could be sad. But it's funny
Yeah, I was
because of
gonna
that
say it's
interaction.
funny.
Um,
It's a funny story, but there absolutely is a lesson in it.
yes,
My next question to you and say, well, tell us, help us understand in your role, people that are like interested in being in this industry and trying to find a way around in different ways that they can add their skill set to the real estate industry or their community. I was gonna say, what's the hardest thing you deal with? And I feel like in the funny story you told us,
yeah,
right? Is the accountability, is holding people accountable that sometimes we don't always understand or have the information that we need. So it definitely takes uh slowing down as professionals sometimes, to not hold people accountable, in a derogatory or negative way,
oh, no,
but
no.
to really help, like you're saying, to help shape, to help them understand. We really, at some point, if you're doing work, whether you're on the public side, private side, don't matter. I don't want to say it's your responsibility, but on some level, right? Especially if you stay in the area that you're impacting. So, not to get on my soapbox, so to speak, but I do want to ask you something a little more, not technical, but since you are able to see, from your purview, what has your attention in the market? There's so many things that are changing right now. I think for you, the commercial sector is changing drastically across the country, which of course is changing drastically here hyper locally, right? And so that's I'm looking at those kind of things. What has your attention in the market from your perspective?
Wow. So definitely commercial spaces that are communal spaces, right?
That you said commercial spaces
Commercial
that
spaces that are
communal.
communal spaces where people can
Okay,
gather, right? Because we've been on this mixed use journey for a very long time, right? And making sure that people can live, work, and play, kind of in these it could be mid rises, high rises, or just spaces along major corridors. That's always held my attention for a number of reasons. One, I think that when we talk about putting mixed use development in urban spaces, we have to look at what that ripple effect may be, right? People use the G word all the time, gentrification. I really think that there's a shift in that narrative, when again you're asking for something, but what it takes to get what you're asking for may make you uncomfortable, right?
okay,
Or may challenge you to come up, to level up a little bit, right?
okay.
So um, the mixed use commercial space has held my attention for a little while. Um, Mainly because I think those are opportunities for us to bring some of those desired amenities to the area, right? May not be on a grandiose scale, but on some scale, we can still have access.
A- any rationale you can give us as to like why for you the communal part is so important today?
Yeah, because none of this stuff matters without people, right? We're so divided. We're divided by devices, right? And I say that to my kids and everybody else. It's like, okay, we are so disconnected because we are device driven, right? When do we get a chance to go sit down and have dinner as a family, have coffee, as if we're not intentional about keeping these human relationships personable and in person, we lose that, right? Because we do a lot of virtual things, we do a lot of quick things, and we don't have to be in physical spaces. But when we talk about communal, there's a whole multi-generational or intergenerational aspect that we are somehow losing, right? With families and communities. And so I think that for me, that's important because, I really think that you don't get all the wisdom and all the knowledge you can if you're siloed, right? You got to mix and mingle with people who are not like you, who don't come from the same background, who may
Right.
not have the same lived experience of sorts, because that's where you learn to thrive. That's how you learn to think outside of your box and become creative. So communal spaces for me are a requirement.
It's a requirement.
A
So,
requirement.
so then it sounds like, I appreciate that, and I want people to understand, like, Nikki, you're not a designer, right? You're not an architectural designer or necessarily a developer, but you just inform me, right? And but you're informing me from probably from a lot of feedback that you get from meetings and different things like that. And so this is a place where we as investors, developers, brokers, and things of that nature, more the transactional people in the industry, so to speak, can actually be problem solvers, right?
Yeah.
And so the focus then, it sounds like, is on communal. And so we need to definitely get, some training and some things and some service support for people around how to develop, community-led design and different things like that, which we do, but definitely hearing things like that, we want to make sure that people know a lot more about that and you. So I want to kind of wrap up with how can people connect with you, Nikki?
Yeah, so I'm not hard to find. I'm easy to find. You can email me at innight@houstonsc.org. You can text me 832-549-3190. You can, find me out and
And you,
about.
and you can come to Southeast Management District meeting.
Yes, come to a board meeting. I'm there.
Yeah,
I am there. But I'm in several spaces because I like to understand and to know what's going on. But I'm not hard to find. And if you can't get to me directly, there's somebody that can get to me. Call
somebody
Jason. Call somebody. They can
definitely
find me.
call me. Before I let you go, any outside of all that you have shared with us about yourself, your journey, the industry, the role you play, the market, you've given us a lot just in a short time. Any advice or tips that you just leave us with?
Gosh.
And no pressure. You've
Sounds
given
like
us.
pressure, Jason. Sounds like pressure. Advice or tips. Yeah. Don't get discouraged, with the journey and the process, because, we're dealing with a shift in leadership across our city, right? From the civic spaces to the political spaces, we're experiencing a transition and a shift, right? Um, Depending on where you fall in your, I guess, in your tenure as a realtor, um, there's some things that could be discouraging, but don't be discouraged. Continue to set vision for yourself as a broker and a realtor. Understand what the vision is for the neighborhoods that you are selling in, right? And get to know the people. Really, it's all relationships. So build good
That's
relationships and
we
don't
have
get
we have to
discouraged.
slow down a little bit sometime. Basically,
Yeah.
that's
But it's, yeah, and I think that's where a lot of industry is missing. Valuable information is in the slowing down and in the reconnecting, because we've learned to do everything so fast and so instantaneously, that we're missing the human connection that really fuels everything else. So
yeah. We got to keep that balance. We got to keep
got
that
to,
balance.
got to.
So, you guys, I appreciate everybody that's listening in. Hopefully, you guys reach out to Nikki, get more in tune about management districts, or just essentially being more involved in the management district the management districts here in our city or yours. Um, to Nikki's point, looks like I definitely want to get some folks together to talk a little bit more about design and community-led design and things like that. For those of you guys that don't necessarily know, you can always follow our role in the DT3M Fund campaign. We're having our Lost Spaces conference this June, where we'll be talking about community-led design and how to develop in the ways that Nikki's saying, right, in a more communal fashion, so to speak. And then for those of you guys that are developing and maybe need help, support in putting together these types of deals and things like that, definitely reach out to us. I'm like Nikki. I'm not necessarily too hard to find. I'm everywhere. All right. But if you need be, connect with me at notjustanagent.com or at Jason T. Hyman, and we can get some time together to catch up. So till the end, thank you, Nikki. And I'll talk to you guys next time.
All right. Have a good day.